Hey, I'm glad you're here. I'm Mike, and this is My Car Shop. Today we're going to be replacing a piece of frame rail on the driver's side rear of the 70 Challenger. So let's watch the show intro, give it 30 seconds, I'll meet you on the other side and we're going to tear into this.
Working out of a 100-year-old refurbished barn, bringing 35 years of experience to projects considered beyond repair. Vision, creativity, and problem solving are essential tools in this place. Watch as we transform junk into polished metal miracles. This is My Car's Shop.
I appreciate you so much for being here. I can't express that enough. And today it's a treat for me because I've been waiting a long time to start doing these frame rails. If you've seen the last 4 or 5 episodes, you've seen all the preliminary work that I've done back here with the gas tank mount / floor brace, getting the tank fitted to make sure everything is right there. Just a lot of work, peeling up the floor, etc., etc. And so this is what I've waited for a long time. The frame rail piece is made. I did that in the last episode, so if you haven't seen that, check it out. And we're going to be really ready to rock and roll on this. So, you know what? Let's just stop the talk and let's rock. So I did a lot of pondering, as I mentioned I was going to in the last episode, and I've got everything braced up here. I spent a lot of time jacking this up and down, just watching what was happening in the quarter panel to make sure that this is supported well without having too much, so that when I cut that piece of frame rail out, that it springs. So the danger is it would sag without some support, but if I have too much support, then it's also going to bow up. So I sat here and I jacked up and down on this and watched what's happening. Part of the issue here that I want you to just talk about for a minute is how rusty this quarter panel is. So remember, this is a unibody car, so the support isn't just the frame, it's the entire body structure. And when a quarter panel is deteriorated as much as this, actually part of the body structure is weakened. So I was well aware of that, and as I've been pushing up and down on the car over the last day or two, just watching what was happening, I could see the quarter panel bowing in and out. So I had a pretty good idea how much support it was going to require. But then when I got the jack in here, I actually overextended it just a little bit to see what would happen, and I could see the top of the quarter panel up by the roof moving, and actually the roof was moving a little bit too. So I put it where I feel very comfortable with it. It's not going to move. It's got just a little bit of preload on it, but not much. I'm going to be marking the jack here so that I'm sure that this jack doesn't sink. I've had this a long time. I actually bought this back 25 years ago when I pro-streeted the 68 GTS. Bought it for that purpose, actually. So for me, this is kind of fun to be doing more framework again with this purchase from so long ago. But anyway, I mean, we've used it on a lot of cars since then. It wasn't like that's the only one, but just every time I bring it back out again, it's about all I use it for. So, excuse me. So anyway, we're going to be cutting that out and just really keeping an eye on this. And again, I will be marking this so I can make sure that that jack isn't sinking, although it doesn't. It only gets used for this purpose. So anyway, that's what I've done, and my rationale and my thinking. So we have the frame supported up in front of the axle where the leaf spring actually mounts into the frame there, and then we've got it supported here. So nothing should go anywhere now. It's nice and solid. And this is the challenge of doing this in a shop like this where we don't have an even floor. I don't have a frame rack. I've certainly done this work on frame racks and on shops that are very even floors. I'm in a 100-year-old barn with concrete that's God knows how old. So this is what really, to me, is the fun, is doing this kind of work in a facility like this. And some of you may not agree with the way I'm doing this, and quite frankly, I don't care. I've done enough of this that I feel like I know what I'm doing, so don't break my delusions, all right? The next step here in the process is to measure out where the cut is, because this frame actually isn't perfectly straight from the rear up to the hoop. It comes down and then bends up. And I measured it out on the car, and it's 11¼ inches to where this does its buckle. So I thought a lot about how I wanted to design this, because again, I don't give two craps about being factory original. I'm all about function here on a car like this, because the car's just not worth, as I've mentioned before, you know, it's not, none of this is going to affect the value when this is done. It's not a 446 pack or a Hemi card. So the dimension from the back of this, where it welds onto the spring perch, up is 11 1/4. So I'm going to mark that here. And then take my square. Probably not the best idea to do it this way, but we'll see. The square's not going to work, so let's do it this way. That should work. And we'll double check that dimension. So now I've got a nice place there where I know I want to cut it. We'll do the same thing on the other side, but let me double check this on the top because, yep, 11 1/4. Okay. So now we want to go 11 1/4 from here to here, right? No. 11 1/4. That's the beautiful thing about this end. I didn't cut it real true. It's kind of wonky, so it's, I left the other end to make sure it was perfectly square. So it actually works to my advantage because then I know that I got to measure from the square end down. Okay, so we'll use the square again, line that up. Double check that dimension one more time. Make sure that we're good. Yep, 11 1/4. All right. So now we have it lined on both sides so that we know where the cut is. Now, the key here is I'm not going to take a V-slice out of this or anything. I'm just going to take a straight cut down and then be able to bend this over and then have an overlap in this bend so that I can just weld that up. And I have double material. It's nice and thick there on that bend. It won't be weak, and it'll look nice anyway, and it'll be good. So that's what we'll do. Now, I don't have a bandsaw, so what I'm going to have to do is either do this by hand with a hacksaw. I could do it with the cutoff wheel. I may do it with a Sawzall. I'm not sure yet, so you'll see what I do in the time lapse that's coming. Okay, so obviously there are faster ways to do that, but I wanted ultimate control to make sure that these lines on both sides were perfectly lined up so that when I spread that to do the bend, everything is going to hinge perfectly on the bottom. You know, it really doesn't. Out here on this far end, it only has to go up about 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch, so the overlap is not going to be much. But I have that relief cut in there now, and so it will match the contour, pop it up in place like that, and I'll tack weld it, and then I'll do all of that before I cut the old piece of frame out of the car. That way I know the profile is correct, and we can just pop the thing in place and weld it back in. So obviously that sounds quick and easy. It'll take a little while to get that done because I got to peel the old frame rail off of the spring perch with the air hammer, but otherwise this should go pretty quick. I still have some other prep work to do. I want to drill some spot weld holes in here on both sides, down here, so that I can spot weld this to the old frame that's in the car, and make sure that, you know, so I'll have it welded across the top, up in there, and then some spot welds down in here, so that, and of course I'll try to get as much as I can on the end, inside and out. So I'll have a good 6-inch overlap with the old piece of frame that's good and the new piece that goes back to the spring perch. So off camera I was just doing some prep work. I decided that since I'm going to be solid welding on the end here, just a couple of holes here is going to be more than enough for what I'm doing. I may rethink that. I may do, actually, the more I'm thinking, I may do 2 more in here, so that way I'll have a solid weld and a good here and here. Plus there'll be weld inside or outside, but I just wing it, you know, that's what I do. I could do 5, I suppose. Not sure. But the other thing I have to do is, I was just getting ready to dimension this out, is I need to put spot weld holes in here. I'm probably going to do 5 or 6. I'm thinking 5, 2 here, 2 here, and 1 in the middle. So that's where it'll weld onto the spring perch. But I need to go dimension this edge and find out how far in. It's about 1.5 inches, I think. So I need to know exactly in there where those holes go. So I'm down here just cleaning up this outside of the frame to get ready to weld it and so forth after I cut it out. And I got to do a little more cleanup here where that overlap's going to be. There's the hole, so the overlap is going to be about right here. That's the hole for the shipping bracket right there. So it'll get cut off about right here. That'll be where our overlap is, where those 6 holes are. But what I wanted to show you is, so I put, I think, 5 or 6 holes. I don't remember now, the pieces over on the bench. But this is what the factory did. They spot weld here, 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 and I think 2 on the bottom maybe. And that's how they attach that to that spring perch. So, you know, what I'm doing here is very much a factory type of deal. And I believe that, being as I'm not doing it, you know, with precision calibrated welds and so forth, a couple more is certainly a wise idea. So this will get cut off about right here, and then I'll take the air chisel and blow that out of there, peel that off, get this cleaned up, wire brush down real good, and we'll be able to put that piece of frame in fairly soon, I hope. Well, we're pretty much at the moment of truth now. It's all cleaned up. The new frame piece is all prepped. The holes are all in it. I did 5 on that spring perch end instead of 4. I did 2 underneath. I did 6 down here. It's going to be welded there, and of course this is where it's going to be pivoting once it's in place. So this piece is ready to go in. So I'm feeling pretty confident and pretty comfortable here. I remember back 1994, 1995 when I pro-streeted the GTS, being a lot more nervous than this, partly because that car was solid, it wasn't rusted out, and cutting everything out from the back seat back and having nothing in there, no wheel wells, nothing, just this flimsy little shell, was a lot more to be concerned about than this. However, you never know, right? So I was just in talking to Becky before I came out here to do a few more things to get this next piece of the video done. And I said, well, I'm either going to be brilliant or I'm going to make a big pile of scrap metal. And I say that tongue-in-cheek because I'm sure it's not going to be scrap metal. But that's the risk you have to be willing to take, right? No pain, no gain, no risk. So even though I've done dozens of cars like this over the years, both professionally and in shop situations like this, you have to be willing to just dive in. And I want to encourage you guys, there's almost nothing you're going to screw up that you can't fix, okay? It's a misnomer to think that if something slipped or if something happened and this car twisted, that you can't pull it back together again. Years ago, I was helping a guy put rocker panels in his GM product, and when I wasn't there, the rocker panels got cut out and the body wasn't braced and the body went plunk like this. We just figured out how to pull it back together again, get it in position, put the doors back on, get the door gaps right, welded the rocker panels in, and good to go. So worse things have happened. Yeah, could have buckled the roof. There could have been a lot more damage. There wasn't. The car definitely spread about 2 or 3 inches, and we had to pull it back together again. It literally did this. That's obviously the scenario you don't want to end up in. You want things to line up right. You want things to be right. This little piece of frame here, I'm really not concerned. On the passenger side, when I'm replacing 3 feet of it, I'm not terribly concerned about that either, but there are other concerns with that much of the frame being replaced. So just a little pep talk, I guess, maybe as much for myself as you guys, but you know, I just want to talk to you while I'm doing this and let you know my thinking, let you know what I'm feeling, let you know what you're going to be thinking and feeling when you tackle something like this, especially if you've never done it before. But the biggest thing I want to just encourage you is, you probably can't screw it up so much that somebody else can't help you straighten it out. That's number one. Number 2 is be willing to make it a piece of scrap metal. So start with a car that it doesn't matter. You know, dive into some stuff that you go, so if I screw it up, so what? It was junk anyway, right? So the biggest thing you want to do is make sure that when it's done, it's safe. So if you don't know how to do that, I am a certified mechanic. I've worked in body shops for years, so I'm going to give myself a little footnote here to say I'm a trained professional, right? So make sure you get inspected if you don't know exactly what you're doing, because your life or somebody else's life could be on the line. So it's serious, but yet don't be afraid of it either. So I sound double-minded, I know, but I want to encourage you guys to see how it's done, encourage you to do it, dive into it, but don't be afraid to have some people in your back pocket that can help you out. I've been doing this for almost 40 years, and I still got people that I call and say, hey, I need to run something by you. I got a buddy of mine who is in his 70s. He's been a mechanic and an engineer all his life. He calls me for a perspective sometimes. So, we all need that, and it's good to have those relationships, so develop them for yourself. All right, shut up and cut the frame, Mike. All right, so I'm not going to do this on time lapse, at least for the first cut. I'm just going to go ahead and let you see the real deal here. So I'm going to cut it off about right here. Now, one thing I'm watching for as I cut this, I just wanted to mention, hope you're seeing that okay? Yeah, I guess you are. I'm going to watch for things to pull or shift as it gets down to when it gets thinner. So let's just see what happens. As much as it just bent. She's through. Yep, she's through. Good, now I need to cut it here. So what's happening with the back of the car right now? Nothing, it's staying solid. Okay, so the new frame piece is clamped in place. I'm pleased with the way it's turning out. The angles are right. Everything's fitting nicely. I did make the frame box just a touch too wide, but it's going to be fine. It works good on the front end where I was planning on going more inside, but I decided to go outside. So I trimmed off the flange on the top. On the back, I'm just going to do a couple of slices to tighten things up a little bit, and it's going to be fine. So it's kind of the way it goes, I mean, it's doing the best I can here, and things aren't going to be perfect, but again, this is the fun. I like making it, and it's just a constant adjustment. You're just constantly adjusting to things not being exactly right, and it's metal. Cut it, fit it, make it work. It's not that big a deal. So very happy with it, pleased with it. I might pull it back out one more time, but yeah, I'm going to have to pull it back out one more time to do a quick cut on the very back, so I can squeeze it just a bit tighter around the back of that spring perch mount. But otherwise, we're golden, so good to go. So it was just a bit wide in here. That spring mount was just a bit narrower than I expected. And that's fine. I just cut it here and here, and then I can squeeze that together and then run a bead weld on the outside edge of that, and it will be just absolutely fine. Good to go. I wanted you to be able to come down with me here and see how this fits up in here now. I'll be able to weld this flush here, and by the time I'm done grinding and finishing that weld off, you'll hardly even know that frame was repaired there. There's obviously going to be another one here where where I pie sliced it to create this angle up, and that's working out really well. These slices that I did down here now allow this to pull in tighter on the spring mount. The angle here looks good now. If I didn't say that, if I did, I'm sorry. So, you know, I'll weld up here, then I'll have to peen a little bit down in here and then run a bead down this way as well. And so we will really pour the coals to that to make that fit good. But everything looks really good. Very, very happy. It's a lot of work. It's tedious. But if you take your time, and then even if you make a mistake like I did here, which I suspected it was going to be a bit wide, but I didn't realize it was going to be quite that much, it's fine. You know, you just, it's metal. You cut it, you fix it. One more note, I've painted the pieces where they overlap, because that's a concern for rust where pieces overlap like that. And of course I painted it real good. I've rust treated it all real good, but I also use header paint in there, real high temperature Rust-Oleum paint, 2000 degree. The weld is 3000 plus degrees, but you know, the temperature just outside of that weld obviously it gets cooler the further out you go. So it's just to try to minimize how much of that paint will end up burning off so that you end up with bare metal in there. It should be sealed up pretty well. The car's not going to be outside, etc., etc. But it's just a little trick that I do where I'm going to be welding like that so that I try to not burn off as much paint as possible so that the metal surfaces stay protected. So I have things tacked in place. Looking good. Got a few little goobers there I got to clean up on some weld, but no big deal. Got a little blob there and a blob there, but not a problem. But very happy with the way this turned out. Obviously have a lot more welding to do, but it's turning out really nice. From the outside, and kind of a blessing that the bottom of the quarter panel was rotted off. I just ripped it out of the way, give me good access here. Another thing that I'm probably going to consider doing is drilling a drain hole right in here. That's right at the low point of that frame. You know, I'm not putting in much of the other holes and so forth in the frame, partly because I feel like it'll keep the dirt out. They're not necessary. Most of those are for frame jigs and so forth, which I obviously don't have that, nor do I care. And it's more for factory building than anything. So But I think it might be appropriate to run a drain hole right down there in the bottom, maybe a half-inch hole. We'll see, but just might be a good idea. Not sure. So give me your thoughts down there in the comment section. Tell me what you think. Remember, the car's going to see a hand car wash rarely. Most of the time it'll just be dusted, so it's not going to get a lot of water on the thing. But it probably won't see much rain either. So, but let me know your thoughts. Huge progress, really happy. The frame rail's looking good. I measured the dimension against the other side as far as the drop, and it's really close. So I'm not worried about it being perfect. I'm going to custom make the floor pans, so it'll be fine no matter what, even if it's off a little bit, but I don't think it's off by much. It fits in there nicely. The next step on that is I've got to come back in here and just spend a bunch of time welding. Probably a couple hours of welding to get that frame rail in there very solid and correctly, so that it's strong and so forth. But it's already so much stronger than even the rusty frame rail that was in there before. I was bouncing around on the car a little bit watching the quarter panel, and there's hardly any flex in that quarter panel now. So big progress for sure, very happy. Don't go anywhere. You know, I know this is the end of this episode, but there's a whole bunch more here on the channel that you can watch. So, you know, don't just click away. Stay here. Enjoy other things. There's 35 episodes on the 47 Ford. There's a bunch of episodes on the 74 Swinger. There's 18 other episodes on the 70 Challenger, if this is the current episode that you're watching right now. And if it's not, then there's probably a bunch more after this, so go right to the next one. There's also episodes on the Oakland, there's episodes on the Charger, there's a whole lot of stuff going on here. We're approaching our 100th episode here on the channel. Can you believe that? Wow, it's been crazy. So we're really happy. We just keep gaining a ton of followers on the channel. You guys are really enjoying the projects, and I appreciate that. It's an overwhelming project. I was thinking about that earlier, and it may be one of the tech tips that I spend a little time on, but I'm just going to mention it again. The only way to accomplish a project like this is just like eating an elephant, one bite at a time. I mean, you followed along here and from the beginning of this thing, and we've gotten the roof popped back out, and it's in pretty good shape now. More to do there, but definitely progress. We got the trunk floor out. We got the trunk floor brace done. We got the gas tank test fitted. Well, now we've got the driver's side frame rail done from the hoop back. We still have more work to do on it on the front side, but we're just not focusing on all of that. One of the things that I started looking at was the back window frame on the car, and there's some serious work that's going to have to be done there. And I started feeling a little discouraged, and I just stopped myself and I said, don't look at that right now. Right now, you need to focus on getting this frame rail done. Once that's done, then we'll move to the other side and get that frame rail done. And don't worry about the hundreds of hours of work that's yet to come on this car. You're having fun, that's all that matters. And so just keep doing that one bite at a time, and you'll get it done. So I'm really excited for those of you that are coming into the project right now, that you get to go back and see what we've accomplished so far on this car. This was the very first video that I did on this channel, actually before I even intended for it to be a show, was us dragging it out and me popping the roof out and so forth. So I really want to thank you for watching. Please don't go anywhere. Click something else here on the channel. We'll put stuff up here, all kinds of, wherever that is, all kinds of things going on here in the shop all the time. New tech tip videos coming, more work on the Challenger. We're going to be doing some work on the Oakland soon, so be sure to subscribe if you haven't. Click like on the video if you enjoyed watching this. Click the bell on the subscription so that you get notifications when we put out new episodes. At a minimum, I try to put one episode out a week, usually Tuesday, Wednesday. But if I can, like this week with the holiday, I'm trying to get out 2 or 3 episodes while I have some extra time. So we are on Instagram, we're on Facebook, just look for /MyCarsShop. Once again, I'm Mike, and I just want to thank you for being here. You mean a lot to me, and the fact that you guys follow this, I appreciate it, and stick around, more to come.